Hi, this is Ant from Speakerstack Music. In today's video we're going to continue with making a dance track in 100 minutes, and we're going to be adding in an LFO synth into the track, into the song. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go and open up another MIDI channel, and we're going to drop in yet again another analog synthesizer into that channel, and we're going to rename that as LFO. Into the channel, and then in there we're going to add in some audio effects in anticipation of the sound that we want to produce. We're going to add in an EQ8. Going to add in a delay, going to add in a chorus, going to add in a reverb, I'm going to add in another EQ8, and I'll show you why in a second. And then we're going to add in, we're going to max for life, go to audio effect, and add in 2 LFOs, and we're going to map these LFOs to this second EQ8 to create the LFO effect. So the first thing I'm going to do is record some notes in based on what I want to play. Just get the track armed. Just going to turn the delay off for a second while I'm playing those in. Okay, I'm just going to check to see if record quantization is set up correctly for when we record the notes in, which it isn't. We've now got it set to capture. Hopefully that will then snap the notes into the right time on the grid. I'm going to go to the section of music that I want to record the notes into. I'm going to start recording the notes in. Okay, let's just check that that's recorded okay, and looks like it's snapped the grid in the right way, so it's looking pretty good. Fantastic. The record quantization is a really good way of actually making sure you record in time. It's not always completely possible to record in time. I'm just going to paste some more of those in around those areas. Again, we can play with those as we get to the final video, and let's just copy, duplicate, and duplicate. Okay, so we've recorded the notes in. I'm now going to go into the analog synthesizer and just make sure we've got that set up okay. We need oscillator 1 on, we need a sawtooth oscillator set up, we have filter 1 on, we need the frequency set to 22, and we need the resonance set to 0%. Level, I'm going to leave that as it is, and volume, I'm going to leave that as it is. I'm going to detune it slightly to just about 10. Whoops. Again, we can play around with that. And on the amp setting, I think we'll keep that again as it is. I want an initial note that comes in quite quickly, and then I need that to kind of soften, and then I need a degree of release and delay on it, and then again we want it to kind of tail off towards the end. So we're going to have that set up. And oscillator 2, again, we'll leave that as it is as well. Now, in the frequency, we don't want this in the lower frequency ranges because we don't want to muddy up the rest of the mix in terms of the sub bass and the kick and all of that. So I'm going to apply a high pass filter and have that around about 100 Hertz. And again, we're going to apply a high cut filter at the end just to take some of those high frequencies off. But I'm just going to boost the frequency of that very end and just drag that out and capture some of those high frequencies around 10 kilohertz. You can put the delay back on because we took that off to record. Just roll that off a little bit. I'm going to have the feedback at about 41%. I don't really want it delaying too much. And again, roll the dry wet setting off to about 36%. And I'm going to click the ping pong effect, which I always like to put on. The chorus, again, we're going to modulate that and have the rate set as quite low. Have the dry wet set at 50%. And then finally for the reverb, I want to push this back into the mix. So I'm going to have the dry wet effect at around 65%. And then I think everything else, in terms of the stereo effect and the delay time, I think we're going to leave that as it is. And then finally then, for the LFO section, you need to, as I said, we need to map these LFOs to this EQ effect. So what this is going to do is it's going to, the LFO effect is going to create a filter sweep on the sound that you've recorded in. So we're going to, first of all, create a bell LFO on this setting here. And then on the second setting, I'm going to apply a notch. Leave those two as they are. I'm going to map LFO, first LFO to the second frequency. I think that's done to the first frequency. Let's just get that highlighted. Map it to the second frequency. Going to set the rate at about 25% of that rate setting. The depth, going to have it about 60%. And then the second LFO we need to map to that first frequency setting. Oops, make sure that I have the first frequency setting selected, and then you map. There we go. And then for that second one, it's going to cool that rate off a little bit and roll the depth back. So what this is doing is you're mapping this LFO sweeping effect to the filter. So it's essentially a filter sweep through those two sounds, but you've got two different ones happening at the same time. And you can play around with these parameters and get the kind of LFO sound you want. But let's just play that back and see how that's sounding. Fantastic, there's an LFO synthesizer. As I said, you can play around with the settings on the LFO frequency, sorry, not the frequency, the rate and the depth settings on both of the LFOs to kind of create the filter speed that you want, and you can really create that kind of sound that you need for your track. So that ends the video. Thanks again for watching. If you found the content useful, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. The next video will complete this series of videos to make a dance track in 100 minutes, and the last video will focus on making some just final changes to the structure and applying some mastering effects. So that ends the video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.